Hey everybody, I hope you guys are healthy and safe. So you follow my channel regularly, you probably know that I have the privilege and luxury of getting my hands on just about every phone, even more than reviewers in the US and Europe, because I'm lucky enough to live in Hong Kong, which is probably the best cities for phones. I get everything from the mainstream stuff like iPhones, Samsung Galaxies, to the stuff that's not widely available to the West, like the Xiaomis and Oppos and Realmes, to even the really obscure stuff like the Doogies and Royal Flex Pies and Sharp Arcos R6 that probably 90% of the world won't have access to. So what I'm trying to say is, because I have access to so many phones, I feel like I've developed a pretty educated opinion on the mobile industry. And so now when a smartphone brand releases a new product, just looking at the price of the product and where they're selling, I already kind of know what to expect. For example, if it's a global release and it's a flagship phone that's priced near $1,000 or more, you know you're getting the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon SoC, you're getting an OLED screen, it's gonna be a curved screen, it's gonna have glass or ceramic back, you're gonna get at least a triple camera system with a real zoom lens and a good main camera, probably a large image sensor, and then the display is gonna have high refresh rate. You can expect all that, boom, 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 boom. And then if brands release something in the $500, $600, $700 price range, the mid-tier range, then you can probably expect maybe you don't get a proper zoom lens, maybe the Qualcomm chip is not going to be the latest SoC, and maybe you don't have wireless charging, IP68, water resistance, all that. And then if you go one or two levels lower to the $200-$300 price range, then you know you're not getting a zoom lens or a Qualcomm 800 series chip. You're probably getting a plastic body, and then other components will probably be weaker. Like you're probably getting a really weak vibration haptic engine in a entry-level budget device. And this is completely understandable because ultimately this is a business. If a smartphone brand is selling you something for $300, they have to make sure that all the parts that goes into building the phone doesn't cost more than $300. And I think right now Xiaomi or POCO and Redmi have consistently found the better balance in terms of what compromises to make to give you a phone that is low in price but still, you know, doesn't cut too many corners. And the company's latest phone, the POCO X3 GT, continues that trend. So this phone, I don't know the official pricing yet, but knowing what we know about POCO devices and the fact that this phone is not exactly original, more on that later, I know for sure this phone's gonna be under $300 US. Okay, I'm filming this after the POCO launch event, and I was right. The official price starts at $299 US for the 8GB RAM, 128GB configuration. So my guess is right, it was under $300, about $1. And for that price, you're getting a large 6.6-inch display. It's an LCD panel, but it gets very bright, colors are very sharp, and you have a refresh rate of 120 Hertz, so you're getting really fluid animations. You have excellent stereo speakers, and these are real stereo speakers because you have a speaker grill at the bottom and at the top. So that means you're getting equally loud audio output from both sides of the phone in the same direction, and the speakers sound damn good. Inside the phone is a MediaTek Dimensity 1100, so this is currently MediaTek's second best SoC. It's only half a year old, so it's still really new. And it's built on 6nm processing, so it's almost flagship level chip. And performance has been fine. I played Modern Combat Versus on this game. Graphics ran smooth at a high frame rate with no stutter. You also have a 5000 mAh battery in there, which allows this phone to go an entire 14-hour day out and about easily. Remember, I'm a really heavy user, and I took this phone outside, left the house at 10 a.m., came back at like past midnight, so over 14 hours, and I still had over 20% battery life left. You also have UFS 3.1 storage with 8GB of RAM, so everything loads pretty fast. And one of my favorite things about Xiaomi phones now is you get really good haptics even in a budget device. Like usually, haptic engine is where a smartphone company will cut corners. Like the Galaxy S20 FE, the haptics on that phones are terrible. They're mushy as hell. So most of these things I just mentioned, high refresh rate screen, a near flagship SoC, really loud and proper stereo speakers and flagship level haptic engine are usually things that you don't find in a $200 or $300 phone, because smartphone brands choose to compromise in those areas. I'm glad that Xiaomi did not compromise in these areas, because these are the areas that make a phone feel premium and important to use. Like when you're typing, it feels good to have a good vibration engine. When you're watching videos, it feels good to have proper stereo speakers. But ultimately, this is still a business, so Xiaomi still had to compromise somewhere to meet this price point, and they compromised in the back material. So this is plastic back. Not only that, the back is fingerprint magnet, and the area around the camera module attracts a lot of dust. It's a phone that looks pretty good when it's brand new or when you've wiped it down, but if you hold the phone in the real world, use it for 20 minutes, and then you look at the back, it looks pretty bad. Another area of compromise is in the camera system. So you have a triple camera setup here with a 64 megapixel f1.8 main camera. The main camera is actually pretty good, focuses fast, accurate colors, does a good job during the day. But the ultra wide angle camera, 8 megapixel, is pretty weak. So when you shoot at night, details are very, very mushy. And the third camera, it's a 2 megapixel macro sensor. Now, while macro shots turned out okay, you can grab macro shots with the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra or the Galaxy S21 Ultra, and those phones don't have a dedicated macro sensor. So I still don't see the point of a single lens just for macro shots. Video performance is also just okay. When you shoot during the day, it's serviceable enough, but when you shoot at night, it is shake city. So I think by now you should have a good idea of the POCO X3 GT's strengths and weaknesses. To be honest, the weaknesses can't even really be called weaknesses, because this phone, it's going to be so affordable. I don't think you can really expect a premium ultra wide angle camera on a $200, $250 device. I think for people who will be considering this phone, to people that POCO's marketing towards, I think this phone ultimately punches way above its price range. You get more here than you get with any Samsung FE devices or a Realme devices. The only real viable competition right now is from the OnePlus Nord 2, which I did not get to test, so I don't really have a proper opinion on that. As for software, this phone runs Android 11 with POCO Xiaomi's usual Android skin on top. It's a really clean skin, except one change they did with this version that I don't like is they've separated the notification panel with the shortcut toggles. So now when you swipe down, you only get the notification panel right here. You see there's no shortcut toggles like to change screen brightness, all of that. Instead, the shortcut toggles are now in this separate panel that you get from swiping from the upper right corner. I am not a fan of this change because it seems like a change just for a change's sake. And obviously, swipe from the upper right corner to access this menu, everyone's gonna say this is just a rip-off of the iPhone's control center. Luckily, there is a way to turn this off so you can put the shortcut toggles back in the notification shade like every other Android phone on earth. There's also some nice software touches that may be new to POCO's version of MIUI. So I really like, you can now do screenshot of just a particular part of the screen by just pressing on the screen with 3 fingers. And then after that, you can draw a shape. You can draw a heart, and then you'll grab a screenshot just of that screen. And then of course, if you want to grab a normal screenshot, you can just swipe down with 3 fingers. I am a fan of these shortcut gestures that make using a phone easier. Finally, this phone does support 5G, but I think the markets that will be getting this phone, they might not have proper 5G rollout yet, so I still think 5G is a little bit of a gimmick at this point in time. But it does have Bluetooth 5.2, which means it's the latest Bluetooth standard. So when you're connected to wireless earbuds, you'll have longer range and sturdier connection. There's also IR blaster too, for those of you who like to troll people. You know, like I like to do that when my friends are watching TV. I'll use the IR blaster to change the channel on them and they won't know what the heck is going on. So earlier in the video, I said that this phone is not quite original. I say that because the POCO X3 GT is basically just a rebranded, repackaged version of the Redmi Note 10 Pro. But not the Redmi Note 10 Pro that I got my hands on 3 months ago. That's the global version of Redmi Note 10 Pro. Instead, this is the exact same phone as the China version of the Redmi Note 10 Pro. So basically, Xiaomi has 2 Redmi Note 10 Pros that are different phones. One of them sold to the world, the other sold to China. And then now the China one has now been rebranded as the POCO X3 GT and is now being sold to places like India and Southeast Asia. This is pretty damn confusing for phone reviewers like me, but I understand why it has to be done, because marketing is everything. When you are living in a country that POCO is a really popular brand, then the idea that POCO is a new device out sounds better than, oh, here's a 5-month-old device that was sold in China before. So Chinese brands all do that. You know, I mean, it is what it is. It's business at the end. So that's about it for this review of the POCO X3 GT. Once again, another budget entry-level device from Xiaomi, POCO, Redmi that punches way above its price range. So I have a lot more content coming up. Please consider subscribing to my channel or follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up to date with all the latest smartphones. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.